Revealed, 3 spine-chilling, sinister Easter horror stories that expose hidden, terrifying secrets. Jenna's heart raced as she peered out the window, watching shadows flit across manicured lawns. The suburban neighborhood, usually bursting with pastel colors and laughter, felt suffocating. Every cheerful decoration began to mask something sinister beneath the surface. She glanced at Sophie, her sweet daughter, blissfully painting eggs at the kitchen table. Jenna's mind wandered. Whispers of the Harbinger Bunny crept into her thoughts like a spider weaving a web of dread. Local legend claimed this Easter monster thrived on fear. What if it was more than just a tale? As the week wore on, normality unraveled. Neighbors who once waved hello now shut themselves inside with locked doors and tense expressions. The local bakery, colorful with its delicious pastel-themed treats, suddenly felt oppressive. A knot twisted in her stomach. Then, she found the doll. A grotesque rabbit figure, its stitched mouth twisted in a mocking grin, lay hidden in Sophie's Easter basket. Jenna shivered as she picked it up. She'd thought this doll was lost years ago. The icy weight of dread settled itself deep within her bones. "Mommy! Look at my basket!" Sophie's cheerful voice pierced Jenna's grim thoughts, but the joy was hollow. Was this Easter supposed to be like every other? On Easter morning, Jenna's breath hitched as the sunlight filtered through the curtains. She felt a deep unease. Where was Sophie? Panic surged through her as Jenna searched every room. "Sophie!" she called, her voice trembling. Nothing. Only silence, heavy like a shroud. The neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. She dashed outside, calling for her daughter, but the shared dread thickened the air, making it harder to breathe. Neighbors peered from behind curtains, eyes wide and shifty. How could they look at her like that? As Jenna sprinted around, the whispers grew louder, clawing at her sanity with accusations that felt all too familiar. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sweat formed on her forehead, streaming down her temples. She screamed for Sophie again, struggling against panic. The once safe community now appeared as dark silhouettes harboring dangerous secrets. She remembered the stories: betrayal, missing children, the curse of the Harbinger Bunny. Each step echoed her increasing desperation. She could sense eyes following her, the vibrations of whispered gossip reaching her like jagged daggers. Just then, an icy wind blew through, chilling her to the core. It was the kind of cold that seeped in deep, unsettling her very soul. Jenna turned sharply, facing her neighbor, Ms. Henderson, who stood clutching the edge of her door. A glimmer of something in the woman's eyes sent a jolt of terror through Jenna. Had they hidden Sophie away? Had they become part of the horror festering in the shadows? The truth was lurking, hidden in the whispers she never wanted to hear. Collective fear bound the community tighter. Jenna felt their secrets wrapping around her like a noose. With each passing moment, she realized that trusting her neighbors may have cost her everything. The dread surged within her, and a thought twisted her insides. Was the Harbinger Bunny truly a fable, or was it preparing to claim her precious Sophie? With a clenching throat and racing heart, Jenna plunged deeper into fear, clinging to the hope that she could still save her daughter before the shadow of the Harbinger Bunny snatched her away for good. Jenna's heart thundered in her chest as she darted toward Ms. Henderson, eyes wide with desperation. Where is she? Where is Sophie? The words clawed at her throat. The air felt electric with the unspoken truth hanging between them. Ms. Henderson just stared. A twitch flickered on her face, and Jenna could swear she saw a shadow flicker behind the woman's eyes, something dark, something lurking. The other neighbors emerged slowly, like ghosts drawn out by the chill. They formed a silent crowd, and their collective gaze pinned Jenna in place. "Please tell me you know where she is." Jenna's voice cracked, and the fear poured from her like a river bursting its banks. "It's the bunny," Ms. Henderson whispered, her voice barely a tremble over the wind. "You shouldn't have let her." Jenna barely caught the words, electrified by a knot of horror tightening in her gut. "What did you say?" But as the words fell away, the crowd's eyes dulled, and they seemed to retreat into themselves, collective shame hanging in the air like a noxious fog. The sun dimmed, a thick cloud creeping across the sky, wrapping the neighborhood in an oppressive gloom. The moment splintered into impossibility. As dread pulled her down like a sinkhole, Jenna turned and stumbled away, seeking any refuge that could shield her from the encroaching darkness. Thoughts raced. The doll, the whispers. They all spoke of the bunny. She rushed to the one place where she hoped to find Sophie, the local park where they often spent Sunday mornings hunting for hidden eggs. But today, it felt desolate, the laughter of children drowned out by a suffocating silence. Her feet crunched on the grass, each step heavy, her heartbeat thrumming in her ears. "Mommy! Look!" The voice sliced through the stillness. Jenna shot around, her breath catching. There, at the base of the old oak tree, a cluster of bright plastic eggs seemed to glow, casting an eerie light against the brooding backdrop. As she moved closer, the joy bubbled up momentarily, but then the shadows danced menacingly around her, twisting the happiness into fright. "Mommy?" A soft call echoed through the park again, but it wasn't Sophie's voice. It was lighter, paler, too far away. The wind picked up, swirling leaves around her like a storm. "Sophie!" she shouted, panic erupting anew as she dashed toward the voices. Each heartbeat drummed louder, each step felt more urgent. Was it a trick? Suddenly, she froze. There, half hidden in the overgrown weeds, was a small pale figure, too small for the grasp of adulthood. Her eyes widened as she recognized the tangled curls and pink dress. Sophie! As Jenna sprinted, relief flooded through her. Just then, her foot kicked a hard object buried in the earth, an egg. But it wasn't just an ordinary egg, it was painted crimson, the color of fresh blood. She hesitated, her heart slowing as dread gnawed at her resolve. This wasn't right. She reached for it, fingers shaking. What had the bunny done? "Sophie, come here." But as she turned, the figure was no longer there. Panic roared in her chest, and the world around her seemed to twist and warp, shadows gathering like storm clouds. "Mommy!" a voice purred from behind. Jenna whipped around. The sight before her stole the breath from her lungs. The grotesque rabbit doll stood upright near the tree, its button eyes glinting menacingly in the dim light. It smiled, mouth stitched tight, silent but screaming. Nightmare-fed horror gripped her, and before she even realized it, she was running. But where? The air outside was thick with despair, and in her haste, she stumbled to a halt, the horror digging deeper. Was the Harbinger Bunny real? Had it claimed not just her daughter, but the very fabric of the community? The echoes of the past and the shrouded whispers screamed through her mind anew. Before anything could make sense, she heard it once more. Jenna stopped in her tracks. A flutter of something dark and ominous danced through the trees. "Mommy, help me!" the voice whispered, breaking her heart. It didn't sound like Sophie anymore, it felt twisted, wrong. Jenna turned. Slowly, dread pooling in her stomach. The bushes behind the tree rustled. She saw it again, just for a flicker of a moment, a long ear peeking through. Something stalked her. With her breath hitching, she grasped the crimson egg in her trembling hands and took a step forward, knowing she wouldn't just find Sophie, but rather, the terrible truth lurking behind the bunny's grin. What awaited her in the shadows? What was the Harbinger Bunny truly capable of? And would Jenna be strong enough to face it before it snatched everything away? Jenna's chest tightened as the shadows deepened around her. The forest seemed to throb with a life of its own, the trembling branches whispering her name, urging her forward. Her fingers wrapped around the crimson egg, the cold surface reverberating with an otherworldly pulse. A knot of dark energy coiled in her chest. Something was terribly wrong. "Mommy." The voice was clearer now, but the sweetness had melted into a syrupy deceit that made her skin crawl. It lured her to the edge of reason, where the line blurred between hope and dread. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground beneath her was sucking her deeper into a grim fate. "Stay calm," she murmured to herself, but her voice quivered like a broken string. She forced herself forward, edging past the croaking shadows that danced ominously. The path to the oak tree twisted before her, an endless loop of despair. As she approached, the grotesque bunny loomed larger in her vision, its smiling mouth grotesquely stitched. What was it hiding behind those button eyes? Then, a rustle from the nearby bushes, a rustle that sent her heart into a tailspin. "Sophie?" Jenna called, her voice echoing in the hollow silence. This time there was no response, only that sinister laughter lingering in the air like a distant memory. In a sudden burst of clarity, Jenna glanced back at the egg in her hands. It felt wrong. The vibrant red seemed to pulse, as if it contained a dark secret meant to trap her. She slapped it against the ground, gasping at the sight. The shell cracked open, spilling a bitter black fog that curled upward, wrapping around her like a cloak of malevolence. "Mommy, help me please." This time, the voice sounded as if it was coming from inside the fog, an echo of guilt and despair. It sent shivers of terror racing down her spine. Was it really Sophie, or a new trick from the bunny? "Enough." Jenna's voice boomed, carrying through the eerie stillness. She forced her feet to move, stepping back from the egg and pushing deeper into the park. Every instinct screamed at her to run home, to shield herself from whatever nightmare awaited. Yet, the urge to find her daughter pulled her into the depths of the dread. The trees whispered, their leaves rustling ominously, and the fading daylight wrapped her in a suffocating embrace. With each step, Jenna felt eyes watching from the underbrush, felt the disgusting breath of something lurking nearby. Before she could retreat, the shadows shifted. An unnaturally long limb shot out from behind the tree, grabbing the trunk with a cracking thud. Jenna gasped, her breath hitching in her throat as a grotesque smile appeared from the darkness, a sliver of white teeth gleaming against the night. It crept toward her, the bunny's form twisting, limbs stretching in grotesque movements. Jenna stumbled back, the fear now ablaze in her veins. "Stay away!" she shouted, clutching the egg, still warm in her grasp, with a grip so tight her knuckles turned white. Another laugh echoed, haunting and hollow, and then the figure stopped. "You want to see your daughter?" it taunted, voice low and rasping. "Come closer, share your pain. What do you want from me?" Jenna's fear morphed into anger, an ember of defiance sparking within her. "I want to give in." But the thing in front of her simply tilted its head, observing her like a scientist would a fragile specimen. "Let us find out together, shall we?" In that moment of twisted recognition, the air crackled with a life of its own. Shadows danced closer, their forms shifting and coiling as if they were waiting for her to make a choice. With a surge of defiance, Jenna turned and raced deeper into the park, her lungs stinging. She had to find Sophie. She had to save her before the bunny ensnared them both. But even as she ran, she felt the encroaching darkness creep closer, the laughter echoing in her mind. What price would she pay to save her daughter? And would she ever find the light in this engulfing nightmare? Every heartbeat pounded like a drum, forcing her forward into the unknown. "Help me," echoed the voice once more, a last-ditch plea. From the shadows, Jenna skidded to a halt. Was it a trap? Did she dare venture further into the abyss? Jenna hesitated, her breath a shallow gasp in the thickening darkness. Shadows stretched and twisted around her like fog rolling in from the sea. The laughter faded, replaced by a haunting silence, a vacuum that pulled at her sanity. Could it be a trick? Did she dare risk everything on a voice she wasn't even sure belonged to Sophie? "Help me." It cut through her doubts, slicing through the clutches of fear. It sounded desperate. Real. But then horror flickered across her mind. What if she was leading herself into a trap? Heart pounding, she plunged into the thicket ahead where the trees squirmed like writhing serpents. Each step felt like a wager against time and fate. The underlying dread brewed within her, a tempest of regret, but her motherly instinct clawed forward, pulling her deeper. The air thickened. The world around her swirled as the black fog began to thicken, tendrils slithering toward her, brushing against her skin with icy fingers. "Stay away!" she shouted, but the creeping presence only chuckled. The wilderness twisted in her periphery. Hallucinations? Or was something real lurking just beyond her sight? "Mommy, I'm scared." The voice uncorked a flood of anguish and doubt, ripping through her resolve. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting against a boiling terror that threatened to boil her alive. Not again, she thought, remembering the whispers of other lost souls. Those who followed voices never made it back. Jenna opened her eyes and pressed forward, driven by instinct. The laughter from the shadows beckoned again, a taunt woven with false promises. "Sophie!" she cried, her voice ragged now, flaking under the weight of despair. "Jenna!" It was her name, a stuttering echo. This time it came from behind a thicket. Each narrow passageway through gnarled roots felt like a gamble. As she neared, the whispers morphed into a chant, chanting her name, echoing like a warped lullaby. "Come to us, Jenna, come find your daughter, no." She clenched her fists, nails biting into her palms, grounding herself against the pull. "You're lying." The song morphed, becoming sinister. "Pain is waiting, all you have to do is embrace it." Sinking roots clawed at her ankles, as if the forest sought to drag her beneath its dark heart. Reeling, Jenna's legs buckled under pressure, her knees threatened to give way to exhaustion and dread. But anguish ignited her spirit. She would not break. "Mommy, please." The voice was unbearably close now, curled within the shadows. Her heart cracked open, spilling warmth into the cold void, but doubts flooded in. Was this the real Sophie, or a trick to lure her to doom? Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees. Her pulse thundered as a figure emerged from behind a gnarled oak, bewitched in moonlight, a twisted version of itself. It was the bunny, its stitching more apparent now, seams bulging as if it housed something alive within. "Come closer, dear Jenna. I have something special just for you." Something inside her shattered. "Get away from me." She lunged forward, fists clenched, desperate to escape this nightmare. But every breath she took felt weighted a deep fog of despair. With one final lunge, the bunny snapped a twitching limb toward her, sharp claws glinting in the pale light. She screamed as pain shot through her wrist, a searing grip that pulled her back. Dark laughter erupted as the world around her began to spin. Jenna felt herself slipping away, dragged into the darkness, the voice of her daughter beating in her ears. "What if I could bring her back?" The bunny cooed, a chilling whisper that sent ice through her veins. "Don't you want to see her again?" Just a little sacrifice. As shadows closed in, Jenna screamed, "No. I won't give in." But darkness clung to her thoughts, clawing for her surrender as she plunged deeper into its tangled web, into a sinister unknown. And just like that, the whispers turned sharp, a new idea creeping into her mind, blurring the lines of what she truly wanted. Could her love truly break the darkness, or would it lead her to the ultimate betrayal? The grip on her wrist tightened, cold and unyielding. Jenna stumbled, caught between the forest's merciless darkness and her desperate need to find Sophie. Panic raced through her veins, hot and stinging. She wrenched her arm, fighting against the bunny's hold. Yet, its laughter echoed with cruel delight, reverberating off the trees, making it impossible to tell where the sound came from. "Let her go!" Jenna cried, her voice ragged with fear. "She's just a child." "Children are so precious," the bunny whispered, its breath a sickly sweet haze. The eyes, blacker than the night, burned with a twisted hunger. "And mothers? Mothers always seek. They never leave well enough alone." With a surge of strength, she twisted free, breaking away from its grasp. The forest seemed to part for her, offering a brief breath of freedom. But Jenna knew better. The night had a way of reclaiming what it lost. She darted through the trees, the gnarled limbs reaching out like skeletal fingers seeking to pull her back into the void. "Mommy, please help me." The voice clawed at her heart, shattering her hope. She sprinted, each footfall a desperate prayer. Branches whipped at her face, tears streaming down her cheeks as she fought for every ounce of strength. Just ahead, light flickered a promise. A lie? Jenna hesitated at the edge of a clearing, where the moonlight pooled like silver. Shadows danced and swirled, forming grotesque shapes that laughed and shushed. Dread settled heavy in her chest. "Sophie!" she called, fear thickening her throat. "Sophie, where are you?" A chilling chill enveloped the clearing, thickening the air as shadows grew darker. "Mommy!" The voice warped, echoing back to her in unnerving tones something was wrong. Then came an inhuman laughter, bubbling up from the depths of the forest like an uncorked bottle. It echoed off the trees, and she felt it resonating in the pit of her stomach. The very earth beneath her seemed to tremble, the ground vibrating with anticipation. The bunny appeared once more, its figure now a grotesque shadow that writhed beneath the silver moon. "Did you think you could just leave? You're bound now, dear Jenna." Panic surged through her. She spun around, her heart beating like a war drum. Where was Sophie? "Look closely," the bunny hissed, its voice slipping into her mind like poison. "Can you see what you have to sacrifice?" There, in the dirt, lay a doll, the ominous counterpart to Sophie's beloved bunny, stitched with painstaking detail. Its eyes were glassy and unblinking, reflecting her fear. Cold fear seeped deeper into her bones as she recognized the marked similarity. "You must choose, Jenna. Her life, or yours." "No!" she screamed, but the words felt hollow against the suffocating silence of the night. "I want tea." But even as she said it, doubt crept in, gnawing at her resolve. What if this was the only way to save Sophie? The bunny stepped closer, its thin lips parting in a sinister smile, revealing shadows where teeth should be. "Embrace the darkness, and you may yet have your daughter back." The shadows thickened, whispering, reaching for her. Jenna was torn between monstrous fear and the love that drove her, a gruesome choice unfurling in the depths of her mind. Her heart raced as the whispering shadows twisted into something more real, offering her visions she dared not face. Would she truly have to make that sacrifice? In that pivotal moment of dread, darkness clawed at her mind. A flash of red gleamed in her peripheral vision. Was it Mommy? And then the clearing shifted, opening a new doorway in the nightmare. "Do you see her?" The bunny taunted, the disguise in its voice faltering. "All it takes is a single leap into the unknown, all for the love of a child." Jenna's breath caught. What had she done? In a split second, the blurring line between love and horror became even more entangled. As she teetered on the brink of her decision, she realized the darkness was laughing at her indecision, waiting to consume her whole. And in that moment, she knew, what if she wasn't the only one in danger? With the shadows closing in, Jenna screamed, "No! Not again!" As the echoes of Sophie's laughter reverberated ominously around her, the forest now a living, breathing thing hungry for her despair, what lay beyond the next leap into darkness? Would she still have a daughter waiting for her on the other side? Jenna's breath came in frantic gasps, each inhalation a panicked plea for clarity in the chaos that surrounded her. The shadows coiled around her feet, as if claiming her for their own, and the night felt alive, watching, waiting. "Mommy, help me." The voice, sweet yet haunting, pierced through the suffocating blackness, pulling at her heart like a wire fraying under too much tension. Something primal surged within Jenna, a mother's instinct sharpened to a razor's edge. The bunny still lurked in her line of sight, its figure shifting, a grotesque marionette dancing to a tune only it could hear. "Your time is running out, dear Jenna," it crooned, a mix of mockery and menace. "What will it be?" Show me your love, or walk away empty-handed. Jenna's eyes darted to the doll, its glassy eyes glimmering under the moonlight, an eerie mirror to the nightmare. Could Sophie really be trapped in that twisted message? Her heart pounded harder. No. You're lying. She felt the ground pulsing beneath her, drumming in time with her heartbeat. But doubt flickered like a candle in a storm. Was saving Sophie as simple as embracing the darkness? Choose. The bunny's voice cracked the air, an order wrapped in twisted pleasure. Shadows rushed in around Jenna, pushing her toward the doll. Jenna's hands trembled, fat droplets of fear mingling with desperation pooling in her palms. She could grasp the doll 2 lives for one, or simply surrender to the night. She turned her head, squinting through the thick air, searching for a glimpse of red amidst the shadows. Mommy. The voice, filled with the hope of a child, was hauntingly close, each syllable a dagger piercing through Jenna's resolve. Help me. Help. Stop. Stop it. She yelled, feeling the weight pressing down on her lungs. Memories of Sophie, laughing, playing, filled her mind, each image a thread that bound her to her purpose. No more games. She shouted, trying to steady her voice against the chaos. The bunny tilted its head, amusement dancing in its featureless eyes. Then let me show you the truth, it sneered. The shadows writhed, and suddenly Jenna was swept into a vision, Sophie standing before her, a small figure with those familiar, innocent eyes. But the child before her was different. Shadows danced around her, cloaking Sophie in darkness. Mommy? Sophie whispered, her tiny hands reaching out, fingers stained with the shadow's essence. Jenna's heart shattered. No, no, no. And suddenly, the clearing erupted. The shadows, now alive, swirled with frantic intensity, closing in around her. Choice, dear Jenna. All it takes is a leap. The bunny's voice twisted into a cacophony of laughter and cries, echoing in her ears. A sickening churn in her stomach urged her forward, each heartbeat drowning in mounting desperation. Mommy. The voice faded, twisting like smoke as the shadows coiled tighter. Jenna felt it, they knew her weakness, and they would exploit it until there was nothing left but despair. The dome of trees around her shifted, growing closer, suffocating her with every passing heartbeat. Choose. Or watch her fade into the abyss. Nothing but chaos, nothing but panic surrounded her. Every instinct screamed at her to reach for the doll, to grasp the lifeline the bunny offered. But every shred of her being told her that it was a trap, a sinister façade meant to drag her down. Jenna breathed deeply, summoning her strength. I won tea. She shouted, her voice echoing defiantly through the spine-chilling laughter. The clearing wavered, and darkness pressed against her. But what if the darkness wasn't waiting? What if it was too late? As the shadows lunged, Jenna made her choice, a leap into a fathomless unknown, eyes burning with determination. Right or wrong, it was time to step into the abyss for Sophie's sake. And as she jumped, a new, profound silence enveloped her, pregnant with unspeakable terror. What would she find on the other side? Would Sophie be waiting, or had the darkness already claimed her? The void swallowed Jenna, eyes squeezed shut as icy darkness wrapped around her, thick and stifling. She felt weightless, suspended between dread and hope. For a heartbeat, there was nothing, no whispers, no cries, just a silence so profound it echoed painfully in her ears. Then came a rush, like a wave crashing down, pulling her into the depths of an unfathomable sea. Jenna opened her eyes, half expecting a return to the clearing. Instead, she found herself in a large, dim chamber. Shadows twisted around her, taking on grotesque forms, darting in the periphery of her vision. Where am I? Panic surged. Was this a nightmare, a realm crafted by the wretched bunny? The air hung thick with the scent of rot and decay, overwhelming her senses. She could barely move, as if the darkness tethered her to this new, horrifying reality. No, a thin, tremulous voice broke through the oppressive silence. Mommy? Her heart tightened. That voice. Sophie? She turned wildly, eyes darting across the chamber. Hope ignited, but it flickered in the quagmire of desperation. Sophie! Where are you? Jenna screamed, her voice raw and echoing off the walls. Mommy! I'm scared, the voice whispered again, closer this time. Guided by that tremor of familiarity, Jenna stumbled forward, a sense of urgency stealing her resolve. The shadows curled around her, brushing against her skin like frosty fingers. Keep coming. The voice urged, an echoing plea filled with both terror and trust. Jenna pressed on, shoulders hunched as if bracing for a blow. Then, she caught sight of a flickering glow. Was it hope, or a trap to lead her deeper into despair? The dread of darkness loomed larger, ready to ensnare her. The glow brightened, revealing a small, tattered door at the far end of the chamber. Jenna raced toward it, heart pounding. But as she neared, the temperature dropped, and a low growl reverberated through the darkness. Turn back, turn back. The words hissed, twisting and coiling, as if rooted in absolute malice. Jenna pressed on, fighting against the chilling whispers. No! I won't turn back. Reaching the door, she hesitated. Hesitation gnawed at her gut, a creeping dread urging her to reconsider. Could it truly be Sophie waiting on the other side? The shadows had tainted her thoughts, each insidious whisper a reminder of the darkness threatening to envelop them both. Mommy! The voice pleaded again, and Jenna's heart shattered. With trembling hands, she grasped the door's handle. It was cold and damp, like the grasp of death itself. She hesitated. But in that fleeting moment, wrestling with dread, a realization slammed into her. This was the line between hope and despair. Come with me, Mommy. The voice grew stronger. Jenna twisted the handle, and the door creaked open, spilling light into the hellish chamber. For a moment, she froze, transfixed by the brilliance illuminating the shadows. It felt like a beacon, alive against the encroaching darkness. But then she saw what lay beyond, an endless corridor lined with lifeless dolls, each one wearing a twisted, frozen smile. Their eyes reflected the same darkness she had seen in the bunny. It was a horror far too familiar. Suddenly, laughter erupted, a cacophony of sound that twisted joy into abject terror. Jenna stumbled back, fear cascading through her. No! What is this? The bunny south form twisted into place behind her, eyes glimmering with a malevolent delight. Oh, sweet Jenna, how far you've come. But did you really think you could escape? Let her go. Jenna shouted, clutching the doorframe, heart racing. Choose who you wish to save, dear. The dark takes one, but the light will claim the rest, the bunny taunted, voice dripping with malice. As the laughter rose again, echoing through the corridor of dolls, Jenna felt the weight of the impossible choice she was faced with. Save the daughter who may already be lost, or abandon the last thread of hope. Panic surged within her as she looked between the glowing door and the shrouded corridor, a choice laced with terror. What would she sacrifice? Would she dare to face the darkness again? Make your final choice, dear Jenna, the bunny said, its grin widening. And just like that, the laughter faded, leaving her alone in the suffocating void of uncertainty. Would the truth throw her deeper into the abyss, or lead her toward salvation? The corridor stretched endlessly, lined with dolls that seemed to shift and squirm, their hollow eyes following Jenna's every move. Each step felt like a taunt, the smile of every porcelain face a reminder of the terror looming just beyond her reach. She could still hear Sophie's voice, faint but insistent, echoing in her mind. Mommy, please. What do I do? She murmured, feeling sweat bead on her forehead. Her pulse raced. The bunny's presence loomed behind her like a shadow, malevolent and all-consuming. Choose wisely, it crooned, the words dripping with sinister glee. She had to act, to save her daughter. But which path led to her? Would crossing into the light save Sophie, or open the door for horror? The dolls echoed her indecision, their whispers filling the air with dread. "Mommy." The voice was clearer now, panic creeping in. Clenching her teeth, Jenna faced the corridor ahead. "I'll come for you, Sophie. Just hold on." The moment she stepped forward, the doll's eyes turned black, the laughter shifting to something darker, deeper. It echoed in the vastness of the chamber, reverberating off the stone walls like a funeral dirge. The shadows beckoned to her, curling around her ankles, trying to ground her in despair. "Mommy." "No." Sophie screamed, her voice laced with fear. "No." Jenna cried out, fighting against the pull of the darkness. "I'm not losing you." With renewed determination, she sprinted down the hallway, the dull thud of her heart drowning out the chilling cries of the dolls. Each face seemed to morph, their features becoming grotesque and monstrous, mocking her as she passed. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of despair. "Come back." Fate awaits. Suddenly, a doll lunged from the wall, shrieking, its porcelain body shattering on impact as it grasped at her leg. Jenna stumbled, fear surging through her like venom. She shook it off, but the grasp of the corridor tightened around her, attempting to drag her into their sweet oblivion. "No. I'm not yours," she screamed, her voice piercing the gloom. Ahead, she saw a faint glimmer of light growing brighter, pulsing almost like a heartbeat. It called to her, promising warmth and safety. Fueled by desperation, she leaped forward, dodging more dolls that lunged and screamed, desperate to claim her. "Mommy." Sophie's muffled voice faded, almost drowned by the darkness. Jenna's heart shattered anew, mixed with dread and fury. Ignoring the chorus of chaos swirling around her, Jenna reached for the light. Was it just a mirage? Would it lead her into an even darker trap? But she had no choice. Just as she reached the door bathed in light, a chilling hand gripped her shoulder. Cold terror washed over her as she turned to face the bunny, its grin impossibly wide, its eyes reflecting a universe of malice. "Choose, dear," it taunted. "Choose and save one of your loves from the fate that awaits them." "What do you mean?" Jenna shouted, her heart racing. "Fear binds you, sweet Jenna. It only grows with doubt." The bunny leaned closer, its breath a fetid wind. "I will offer you a deal, but what will it cost you?" Jenna's throat tightened. The laughter of the dolls grew louder as they closed in around her. The corridor spun like a storm, warring between light and darkness. With a frantic breath, she looked at the door again, feeling the warmth radiate toward her, but in her gut, she knew something crucial was about to be revealed. "Make your choice." The bunny bellowed, its eyes locking onto hers, holding her gaze like a vice. Would she step into the light, risking everything, or would the darkness swallow her whole? And what of Sophie? Would the choice save her, or was she already lost? Desperation filled the air, the weight of it squeezing Jenna's heart. Time was running out, and every second felt like an eternity. The moment came. Would she walk toward salvation or into the suffocating arms of despair? "Mommy." Sophie's voice broke through one last time, and Jenna felt the echo of hope, tinged with terror, resounding in her veins. And as the shadows swept forward, Jenna braced herself for the ultimate decision of a mother's love. Would it be horror or salvation that awaited on the other side? The air thickened. Jenna faced the bunny, its laughter piercing the silence with unsettling glee. Every pulse thumped painfully in her chest as she grappled with the choice before her. She teetered on the edge of a decision that could change everything. "Choose, dear." The bunny's voice twisted with mockery. "The light or the dark? Your precious Sophie or your own soul? You can't have both." Jenna's mind raced. Sophie was in danger, she could hear it in her daughter's voice. It was laced with a fear so raw it sent ice through her veins. With her heart breaking, Jenna turned to the door. The light pulsated like a heartbeat, beckoning her with promises of safety and comfort. But could she trust it? Was it a trap lined with deception? "Mommy." The sound was barely a whisper, yet it sliced through her doubts. Doubt was the enemy, she reminded herself. No second-guessing. No hesitations. Jenna leaped toward the radiant door, fueled by a mother's love, even as the shadows clawed at her ankles like a pack of hungry wolves. The dolls screeched, their porcelain faces warping into masks of rage and misery. She burst through the door, not knowing what lay beyond. For a moment, the light enveloped her like a warm embrace. But that warmth quickly turned prickly, almost electric, as visions of Sophie flickered in her mind. "Sophie!" Jenna shouted, looking around in the blinding brilliance. But her daughter was nowhere to be seen. Instead, the world around her twisted. The warm light faded, leaving her in a stark, colorless void. The silence pressed against her ears. Panic clawed at her throat. "What is this place?" she gasped. Laughter echoed. It surrounded her, wrapping her in a discordant symphony of jeering voices. In the distance, dark shapes moved, skittering like shadows in the corner of her eye. They were whispers of her fears, each one morphing into a grotesquerie that tested her sanity. "Mommy!" Sophie's voice pierced through the laughter, so close she could almost touch it. "Help me! Where are you, baby?" Jenna's voice trembled as she searched, her heart thundering in her chest. Each call felt like throwing a bottle into an endless ocean of despair. "Over here." She strained to follow the sound, but the darkness danced, pulling it away just as it felt within reach. "No, I want to let you take her," Jenna yelled, her lungs burning as desperation clawed at her. A wall of shadows rose up, blocking her path. They sizzled with malignant energy, a barrier that whispered promises of torment if she dared cross it. Yet behind it, she sensed Sophie's rising terror, her pleas igniting a fire within Jenna. "Stay back!" Jenna screamed, determination fueling her. Spurred by fear for her child, she surged toward the wall. Shadows exploded in a cloud of whispers, the voices shrieked as she brushed through, each contact like ice against her skin. When the final shadow broke away, a new world unfolded. It was a twisted mirror image of the corridor she had just fled, but instead of dolls, it was filled with blackened statues, their forms contorted in eternal agony. An iron smell hung thick in the air. "Sophie! Where are you?" Each step felt heavier, the ground squelching beneath her feet. The statues seemed to shift subtly, their features flickering with recognition, as though they remembered joy once and were now lost to torment. "Mommy!" The cry came from deeper within the maze of statues. Jenna's heart soared, but terror struck anew. What was this place? Had she saved her daughter or gotten herself lost in the dark? As she advanced, dread coiled around her like a snake, whispering that leaving the last decision unmade might have been the ultimate mistake. But she didn't have time for doubt now. She reached another intersection. To the left, the air shimmered with an ethereal glow. To the right, anguished cries echoed, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. Which direction should she choose? Jenna faltered, the weight of each choice settling heavy in the pit of her stomach. With time slipping through her fingers like sand, Jenna needed to decide. Would she drown in nightmares or cling to the fading hope of her child? "Pick a path, Jenna." The sinister voice of the bunny echoed from the darkness as Jenna stood torn, the shadows waiting, hungry for her hesitation. Desperate for a flicker of courage, Jenna took a deep breath and stepped forward, but what awaited her beyond the turn? Jenna's heart raced, each thump resonating in her chest as she stood at the crossroads of fear and hope. The shadows whispered promises, curling around her like a living veil. She glanced left, to the shimmering glow that promised guidance, a light washed in warmth. Then her gaze darted right, where anguished cries erupted, a chorus of entreaties that sent chills down her spine. "Mommy! Help me!" Sophie's voice echoed from the depths of the darkness. Jenna felt the fear wrapping around her throat like a vice, but she couldn't wait. With a strength born of desperation, she turned right, hurling herself into the agony-laced corridor. "Don't lose yourself," she warned herself, forcing her legs to run as dread erupted across the walls, an invisible force clawing at her heels. "I'm coming, Sophie." Each step forward felt like a rebellion against the haunting specters of despair, a promise lodged deep in her soul. Yet, the air thickened with foreboding as the weight of darkness grew denser. "Mommy. Please." Sophie's voice reverberated like a painful echo, dragging at Jenna's resolve. "I'm here," she cried out, her voice piercing the labyrinth of anguish. The shadows thickened around her as terrifying laughter erupted, distorted echoes danced around. Something sinister was watching, feeding off her fear, and it tore at her sanity. "Keep running," she urged herself, pushing past the statues that twisted in silent screams. Frantic breaths escaped her, desperate to grasp a fleeting trace of Sophie. Then, just as dread threatened to envelope her, Jenna stumbled into a dimly lit room. A fixture of moonlight poured through an open window, illuminating the dust motes swirling through the air. Sophie, or at least the silhouette of a small form, crouched in the far corner. The glimmer of hope ignited in Jenna's heart, and she rushed forward, arms reaching wide. "Sophie." As she ran, the shadows hissed and recoiled, arching back as if retreating from Jenna's growing brilliance. "Mommy." Sophie's reply was a song of relief, but the shadows coiled deeper, ready to snatch away this sliver of joy. "No. Stay away." Jenna's protective instincts flared as she skidded to a halt, pulling Sophie close. The child trembled, clutching Jenna's arm desperately. "I thought you wouldn't come." She gasped, wide-eyed with a terror Jenna had never wanted to see on her daughter's face. "I'm here. I'm never letting you go." But even as she spoke, the darkness pressed in, the laughter of the bunny looming closer, beckoning with twisted promises. Shadows erupted violently, coiling like vipers, tightening their grip. Jenna's throat tightened with fear. "Choose wisely," the bunny crooned, reappearing amidst its inky tendrils. Its eyes gleamed with malicious delight. "A life for a life, my dear Jenna. You must give me something to keep that child by your side." Jenna's heart sank. She tightened her grip on Sophie, feeling the warmth of her daughter against her. Was refusing the only way to guarantee Sophie's safety? Was the sacrifice of one soul the key to her salvation? The whispers rose in a crescendo, suffocating her thoughts. "No, never," she shouted, an explosion of defiance roaring up from her core. "I'll never choose your darkness. You can't keep running from your fears, Jenna." The bunny sneered, weaving in and out of reality like smoke. "Only misery lies ahead." With resolve coursing through her veins, Jenna readied herself. "Then bring it." She held Sophie tighter, fear rising but steadfastness overpowering it. "I'd face hell 1,000 times over to protect you." Suddenly, the shadows surged, twisting into snarling forms that lunged toward them. But this time, instead of retreating, Jenna plunged forward, determination in every stride. "Mommy." Sophie cried out, but Jenna felt an inner fire igniting. "Yes, I'm here," she shouted, louder than the horror around them. The bunny shrieked, its grotesque visage twisting in an amalgamation of rage and disbelief as Jenna's defiance radiated. She deflected the shadows with pure maternal love, the kind that harbors hope against despair. As she pressed forward, they broke through a final wall of inky fog, emerging into a brilliant clearing, bathed in sunlight. The warmth enveloped them, washing away the darkness like a cleansing tide. The oppressive laughter faded, the shadows retreating into the depths of the void. Jenna collapsed to her knees, holding Sophie close, tears spilling over in relief. "I thought I'd lost you," she gasped, fear evaporating into the ether. "I was so scared," Sophie whispered, snuggling against her. But the light shimmered with an unsettling flicker, as the last remnants of the bunny's laughter echoed faintly in the background. "This isn't over," it rasped from the darkness beyond. You may have saved her today, Jenna. But this dance? It's only just begun. Jenna stood, adrenaline coursing through her as she tightened her grip on Sophie's hand. No more games, she declared, fierce resolve crystallizing within her. Together, they could face whatever came next. All they had now was each other, and that was enough. As they turned away from the shadows, the sunlight brightened their path, guiding them forward toward a new beginning, heartbeats in sync. This battle had ended, but the fight for their happiness had only just begun. Now, if you love this spine-tingling, twists and turns, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It makes a difference. And don't leave without flooding the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Last but not least, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the thrill and chills.